Alright, what's up everybody, it's your boy Duplays here and I'm back with some more reactions for you guys. So today we're checking out PlayStation Handheld actually happening. Let's get into it.
It's been almost 15 years
4K again.
Since Sony released their last handheld gaming device, the PS Vita. And I think it's safe to say that it is about time they released a new one, especially given the popularity of the Nintendo Switch and all the other handhelds on the market, like the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, and all the rest. And while the PS Portal that was launched like the Steam Deck,
What was that,
the ROG
Overwatch?
Ally, and all the rest. While the PS Portal that
I
was
don't know
launched
what
2
game that
years
is.
ago
It
is
might
still
be Arc
technically
Raiders.
a handheld
No, it's not Arc
console,
Raiders.
it cannot run games
Steam Deck on
locally.
deck.
It's just a remote player. So for people like me who travel a lot and, we want a dedicated handheld for playing games locally and offline, there's currently no such option from Sony. But I do have some good news. There have been a lot of leaks lately on Sony's upcoming handheld, codenamed Project Canis. So what do we
So I'm guessing it's a PS6 handheld, so it's probably gonna be like what, 70% of the PS5's performance, which is insane to have on a handle. I don't know how they're gonna power that battery
know
wise,
about
but
it?
we'll,
Well,
we'll
let me
let
just
him
start with the
cook.
performance leaks
Let Zone
first.
Tech cook.
According to Moore's Law is Dead, who's been extremely reliable in the past with his Switch 2 leaks and PS5 Pro leaks, the new PlayStation
Yes.
handheld may use AMD's Zen 6 architecture on TSMC's 3nm processor,
My ass is
just like
hurting.
its bigger brother,
I mean,
PS6.
twist.
Because yes, this handheld is once again rumored to be a companion device to the PlayStation 6. More on that in just a bit. It's expected to have 6 CPU cores, out of which 4 are high-performance cores for gaming, and then the other 2 are low-performance cores for the OS only. This would be a similar setup to the PS6, just a bit cut down and optimized for efficiency, as the console is expected to only sip around 15 watts of power.
Yes, they're going the Valve route, not passing 15 watts. I like that. They're power conscious.
Under load.
Like that.
The GPU, on the other hand, may have 16 compute units based on the new RDNA 5 architecture, which would deliver around 40 to 50% more performance compared to RDNA 3.5 that's currently used in the LIX. This 40 to 50% uplift is at the same clock speeds as RDNA 3.5, so 1.2 GHz in handheld mode and around 1.65 in dock mode, because yes, it is expected to have similar functionality to the Nintendo Switch, where you can simply dock the console and then use
Bro, that looks so crisp on a 4K TV. Breath of the Wild.
where you can simply dock the console and then use it as a regular home console, but more on this later. And finally, we have the memory. And here, the memory controller is expected to run on a 192-bit bus, using LPDDR5X memory at 8,533 MHz, which is crazy fast. And it could support up to 48 GB of RAM, although Moore's Law is Dead realistically believes that the amount should be anywhere between 24 to 32 GB. So what does this translate into? Well, traditional 4 to 32.
Wait, hold on. Let's go back. Yeah, it's gonna be at least 24, like the Xbox Ally. Not even that, like the ROG Ally X. I wonder if it's gonna have dedicated. No, it's not gonna have dedicated video memory. It's probably gonna have the 24, and then you can dedicate 8 to video memory if you want. And yeah, I would think the max most people would go with 8. Goal is 8 if they allow it. But then again, no, they wouldn't do that because it's not a PC handheld. It's a PlayStation handheld. I'm thinking in the frame of mind of a PC handheld.
What does this
My bad.
translate into? Well, traditional rasterization performance is expected to be around 55% to 75% of that of the PS5 while in dock mode.
Alright, so that's pretty impressive to pull off with 15 watts though. See, I said 70%, and that's in docked mode. It's gonna be even less in handheld. So
that's really impressive.
I wasn't far
However,
off.
The ray tracing performance would actually be much faster than the base PS5s. Apparently, anywhere between 1.3 times to 2.6 times faster. And keep in mind that this device is said to use about 15 watts of power, unlike over 200 watts like
It's gonna be using Steam Deck levels of wattage. So that's really impressive.
PS5s,
Really
which is
impressive.
super impressive. Moore's Law is Dead also believes that the handheld
Yes, I just said
will
that.
be around 50 to 60% faster compared to the ROG Ally X. And
It says bandwidth and control units. I would hope that translates into a direct percentage increase. So we'll,
Finally,
we'll
you can
see when
also
the
get
time
all the
comes.
improvements discussed by Mark Cerny and also Jack, the senior vice president of AMD. They talked about Project Amethyst and how AI could be used to enhance game visuals and performance on the next generation of consoles, including on this PS6 handheld. They talked about 3 new technologies co-developed by AMD and Sony, the first one being neural arrays, which actually connects the GPU compute units for more performance, hence maximizing efficiency. The second one is Radiance cores. These are built onto the chip, handling ray tracing features, which frees up the CPU and apparently offers significant speed boosts, also streamlining the data processing pipeline. And then we've got universal compression, which is an ambitious new tech that apparently analyzes all the data and then compresses it in a much more efficient way than the PS.
So and that's similar to what's on the PS5 now, because the PS5 has dedicated decompression hardware. So that's even less what do you call it? Overhead on the CPU. Right. So they compress the data, transfer it into memory. You're compressing the data so it takes less space in memory. So it's being more memory efficient because it's using less. And then when you're ready to access that data and to be operated on, the decompressor hardware decompresses that, and then it just executes. The CPU executes whatever function on the data and then produces the output. So memory efficiency, basically,
Now, Mark Cerny did say that these features are not finished just yet, and they
just
can
like the
only be
PS5.
tested via experimental simulations. But still, it's pretty safe to say that the PS6 Portable should be a very capable machine, surpassing the base PS5 in many ways, like power consumption and ray tracing performance, to just name a few. But that's not everything, because the most exciting thing for me about this upcoming PlayStation handheld is the ability to apparently dock the console and use it on the big screen.
I wonder if they'll put an ARM CPU in there to give it sleep mode, just like the PS4 does, and I think the PS5 has that as well. More than
Honestly, I
likely.
didn't see this coming, but once I read that it may offer this functionality, I got very excited. As previously mentioned, the performance could be around 30 or so percent faster when docked. And that makes sense as there wouldn't be any power constraints, so the clock speeds would be able to go from 1.2 to 1.6 GHz. What's even cooler is that Sony may also release a PlayStation 6 S console, which would technically be this PS6 handheld hardware, but without a screen. This would technically be a permanently docked PS6 handheld for around $100 less. So if you don't care about portability and you only plan on using your console at home, then this could be a great alternative. It would be very similar to what Xbox have been doing with their One S and Series S of consoles.
You know, even though I have the Steam Deck and I don't have to tweak as much, I do kind of, and I'm a PC, I'm a hardware tech savvy guy, so it's not even like it's hard for me. I live for this shit, but part of me like low key kind of misses being able to just load in the game and not mess with graphics settings. Not that I I'm completely away from that because I still have my PS4. What I meant in terms of handheld, I have a Steam Deck, and logistically, I know there's no reason for me to, but I've just been thinking so much about getting a Switch OLED. I wouldn't get the Switch 2, because I don't want the LCD screen. I want an OLED screen, and I can probably get the Switch OLED relatively cheap. And I really like the kickstand. I would wait on the Switch 2 OLED and probably get that. But there's so much other hardware out there that I don't know. Maybe I'll get one, but then I'd have to buy games
offering
for
cheaper
it.
alternatives to their flagship console. Speaking of $100 cheaper, how much could this new handheld console actually cost? Well, here's everything we know about its price. But before that, let's talk about your data, not just on your PlayStation console, but in general, and how you can use Incogni to protect it. Because
Oh, I can skip this. Hold on.
Moore's Law is dead, estimated discount on their $399 to $499, and then $299 to $399
The price?
for the PS6 S home console, which in my opinion is really good.
I don't think it's gonna be that
Current
cheap.
PS Portal costs $200, while technically only being a screen and the battery slapped onto a
Exactly, and it's pretty much a streaming device, and it's 200. 150 I could understand. 200 isn't even that bad, but it's not standalone hardware, so I would have said 150, but you know, I don't control that. It is what it is. But I don't think it's gonna be below. Well, nah, it's console hardware, so they're gonna price it as such. But then again, the handheld factor might make it like be a pricey option. I don't know. Maybe it's
We
gonna be
also
like
have the
450,
controller, without the
500.
ability to play games locally. Now, don't get me wrong, the PlayStation Portal is actually really good value for money, especially after the recent gigantic update that allows you to stream games directly from the cloud onto the PlayStation Portal without a need for you to even have a PS5 in the first place. However, I much prefer playing my games locally, so in that case, a PS6
Yes, I
handheld for
agree.
$399 would be insane value for money. Even at $499, it would still be fair when you consider that the ROG Xbox LIX costs $1,000. And not only will this PS6 handheld be more
In the defense of the Xbox LIX, it's literally a Windows PC, so it has way more functionality beyond gaming.
powerful, but it's also rumored to have the ability to seamlessly dock. But okay, all of these leaks definitely do make it sound way too good to be true, so what gives? Well, probably the display, which is expected to have a resolution of 1080p and a refresh rate of either 60 or 120 Hz, although 60 Hz would likely be the case here. No other specs for this display have leaked yet, so I wouldn't be surprised if we actually end up seeing the same panel as on the PlayStation Portal. This wasn't a bad display per se. The
And all
colors
that
were
would have
pretty
been nice.
accurate, and the display itself was pretty responsive too, unlike the Switch 2's display, and it was also decently sized at 8 inches. However, I much prefer having an OLED. Even the Switch OLED, despite being way smaller and much dimmer,
Same.
is, to my eyes, a nicer display to use. Also, I do hope they give us some customizable home screens because our wallpapers would look just stunning here. At least you can now get them for free on your phone, tablet, and desktop until the PS6 handheld releases. Link down below. However, with all of that power, the battery life should be pretty poor, right? Well, I don't know. We haven't really had any leaks or rumors.
This is the biggest concern. We have, and I reacted early this week to the Iron Neo X2, and that has a 115 watt hour battery. Sony's definitely not gonna put that big a battery in it. But say they put in an 80 watt hour battery with Steam Deck level TDP. That's like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 hours of gaming. Because the max the Steam Deck chip uses is 25, 26 watts. So 80 would be a little over 3 hours of like AAA gaming. So I mean, assuming this uses as much as the Steam Deck at full load, it might use even less, and likely will. So yeah, around 3 hours
On
of
the battery
AAA gaming.
itself, but with a power draw of around 15 watts, I'm expecting anywhere between 2 to 4 hours, of course with a decent
2 to 3, yeah, 2 to 4.
Sony may also include multiple power profiles, just like a lot of the handhelds on the market right now. So if you want more performance, you can sacrifice battery life and vice versa. Additionally, they have recently introduced a power saver mode in the PS5, which lowers the clock speeds and the memory bandwidth as long as the developers implement that into their games. Of course, this makes zero sense on a dock console, but on a handheld that runs on battery power, it would make all the sense in the world. So there is actually a lot of speculation online that this mode has in fact been developed with a PS6 portable in mind, and that Sony introduced it early just to test the waters and to get
Oh, so
feedback
they
from
just based the testing
developers
it on the PS5.
before
Okay.
the PS6 portable comes out. So what about its design? Although we don't really have any design, the PS6 portable comes out.
Alright, let's go
So
back.
what
Just like the Xbox LIX, I love this etched, not etched, well, I don't know what the word is, but I like this art. I love the raised printed PlayStation
about its
buttons on
design?
this.
Although we
Love
don't
it.
really have any design leaks, I would love for it to be similar to the PS Portal, even if it ends up being quite a bit thicker to accommodate that extra cooling and the battery and the chip and all that power, as the PlayStation Portal did look quite sleek, especially in black. And of course, I'm also expecting it to keep the same great adaptive triggers, haptic feedback, and possibly dual microphones and dual speakers. Now, yes, I know the speakers on the PlayStation Portal were not great, even though they were dual speakers. So I would love to see Sony make some improvements here when it comes to the sound, especially given the almost certain much thicker body. Additionally, I also expect this handheld to have some upgradability aspects, just like the bigger PS5. possibly even the ability to replace the M.2 SSD with a larger one, or even have a secondary slot for it. And I also expect to see
Hopefully,
backwards
yeah.
compatibility with
Hopefully it has
PS5
that.
and PS4 titles. So, having said all of this, when
Honestly, I think that's a given. Yeah, that's more than likely going to be the case. I don't think we have to
expect to
worry
see
about
the
that.
new PlayStation Portable? Well, if the rumors are true, Moore's Law is Dead was saying that a manufacturing would begin in mid 2027 with
They're seeing how successful the Steam Deck was, and then the Ally, and then all of the new handhelds spawning, and then even worse, Microsoft jumps in. Bear with me, guys. I'm really tired. I yawned like 6 times already. And then Microsoft partners with Asus and makes a handheld. Even though Sony said they would never try it again, they're forced to, based on how the market's looking. So I'm
an
looking
expected
forward to
release
this.
in late 2027, possibly in the fall, but definitely before the holidays. 2027 is also when we expect to see the PlayStation 6, so this new handheld would then launch alongside it as part of the PS6 family. Personally, I'm genuinely excited for this new handheld, and if you are too, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe because we'll be covering every new leak and rumor as soon as they drop. As always, I'm Daniel, this is Enough Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Enough Tech.
Oh, I finally learned his name. Wow. Alright, let me see the comments real quick. Then I'll go make my 5th video. I'm making 6 videos tonight. Moore's Law is Dead is the source to pay attention to. Yeah, literally everybody so quotes him where it comes on to tech innovations. Alright, they don't make enough games for it early on, then it's basically DOA. I better use my PS5 because it just doesn't have that many exclusives I care about. I have so many games, but I don't have the time, and even when I do have the time, I don't want to play them. I want to do something else. Alright, saving all my money for this, blah blah blah, digital download. Yeah, it is going to all digital, bro. You don't want to be swapping out discs every minute. I'd rather have them digitally. Alright guys, that's my reaction to this. Goodbye.